Now, this meeting, as I was mentioning, as people were coming on, this is the first time I'm utilizing this type of scenario. So please bear with me if I make ridiculous technical issues. I will try to work around them. But we are recording this presentation, and we will post it on our website. So anybody who has to drop out or so forth, or need to leave early, could at least get it in its entirety at their leisure. So I have to share my screen. I have to check my selection. And I believe I can just start. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody to our very first the year in review, or the state of the organization. Of course, we're talking about Jewish Family Services of Greater Orlando. And I can tell you in all transparency that 2020 was one heck of a year, primarily by two major events. Of course, was COVID-19, and the fact that we stayed open. That had a significant impact on our entire operation. At the end of the day, for 20 and 20, our programs, that's what I wanted to talk about. The Perlman Emergency Food Pantry went from an average of 22 families per day in the beginning of our year to, on March 16th, we started averaging 96 families a day. For an organization our size, that's 4 times the amount. Then our ride program, it basically went to zero. Nobody was going anywhere. So we didn't shut it down, it just didn't get any calls. And we all know why. Our counseling went from an average of 350 sessions per month to 420 sessions. And our family stabilization program had a 15% increase. And mostly it was calls for people just asking for help navigating the state's unemployment system. I don't need to talk about that. You all know what a disaster that became. Our rabbinical services, it just went down and then skyrocketed as, unfortunately, the virus began to take its toll. But also in 2020, we started a new program, the Rental Assistance Program. And that was made possible because of our developing relationship with Orange County government. And then because of our size, we reached out to the Jewish Capital Alliance and with TOP to assist us in some literally upfront cash opportunity. So they gave us the working capital. And what that wound up doing for our programs is that we were able to assist 223 families pay their back rent. And that kept them out of homelessness. Now, for our finances as an organization, last couple of years have been pretty red. That's just the transparency. In 2017, we closed the year with a loss of $280,000. In 2018, we closed with a loss of $347,000. We made some changes in 2019, new administration, some new shiftings, and we shrunk that loss down to $124,000. For 2020, we did a significant overhaul, and we closed $240,000 in the positive. And we did that by, first of all, re-engaging our donors, and also by developing a very strong relationship with Orange County government. We relied very heavily and significantly on that relationship because we entered into contracts with the government that also provided us a 10% indirect cost. So we had a 10% unrestricted income come into our operation. That, along with the shifting we did in the counseling center, lowering our expenses and raising our sessions, and then streamlining our operations by redeveloping and redirecting staff, netted us at $240,000 at the close of the year in the positive. So as a very brief and quick summary, we helped more people in our service orientation than we have in the past 5 years. And we finished the year in a positive cash position. We developed some significant relationships in the community we served. And again, we actually showed up in the green for a change. And so we were very proud of that. So that kind of speaks to where we were and how we did. And this is going to be a two-way conversation. I'm sure you all have very interesting questions. And I'm going to, after this brief presentation, I'm going to take them. So if you saw something and you want to get some clarity on it, please, you'll have the opportunity to jump into. But we're done with the first quarter. And so building on the successes of 2020, what's next? And I'm approaching it, and the leadership team approaching it, is what 2020 presented us was chaos, just absolute positive chaos. I tell you that from the bottom of my heart. It was pretty extraordinary when we made the decision to stay open. And that was driven primarily, again, in all transparency, by our food pantry. The staff and I were just absolutely clear on the fact that we were not going to close the pantry down. And so because of that, we had to make some extraordinary precautions in our social distancing, in masks, shutting the building down to the public. And then that begins to impact all our other programs, particularly our counseling. In the first quarter of 2020, our counseling center was averaging about 350 sessions per month. And if you know us, and I'm sure as you do, we're open Monday through Thursday from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. And that's primarily to handle the counseling center, because the counselors, we take insurance, unlike pretty much anybody other than the hospitals within a 25-mile service area. So our clients are coming in after work. They're coming in with their children after school. They're doing nighttime visits with our counselors, which is why we stayed open till 8 p.m. But with the COVID, that all shut down literally overnight. Clients just couldn't get in, wouldn't come in to see us. And so for the first month, going into April, that just dropped. And then all of a sudden, sometimes God smiles on us all. The for-profit companies were screaming at Florida's licensing, because mental health was never permitted to work by teledoc, by Zoom, or by phone. You had to do mental health and mental health therapy in person. Unlike the other medical professions, your general practitioner, your ophthalmologist, your bone doctor, didn't make a difference. That they could do teledoc. They've been doing that for 15 years already. But the state of Florida loosened its licensing regulations and allowed all licensed mental health therapists to move to HIPAA compliant telesystems. It worked out for us because in January, we had changed our system before COVID started to a HIPAA compliant system for our billing purposes that, unbeknownst to us, or just never really looked at it too much, included a virtual meeting space. So when Florida notified us about April 20th that we could use a HIPAA compliant system, all we had to do is just turn it on. And we found some very interesting results. I'm belaboring this because it's important. The first month it opened up, it was very interesting because our clients, when you come for mental health therapy, you're a one-on-one in a closed office. Nobody can hear you. It's a private conversation. But when you're doing this from home, the kids are running around, your husband or your spouse, your wife is coming through the door. And so you feel interrupted and you don't feel secure. And so we started to notice that a lot of the meetings were taking place with people sitting in their cars with the air conditioning running to have their one-on-one in a quiet spot. And then it began to grow, and then it became that people adapted. And so they were able to secure a space in their home or in their offices or at Starbucks. We had some people meeting us from Starbucks where they began to feel more comfortable in having their therapeutic session. So much so that it began to grow as the stress of COVID began to relate in. We went from 350 to, I think our best month was 460 of sessions. And so it taught us that people will adapt. as long as you make it as easy as possible for them, and at times hold their hands and walk them through that. But again, we went from we were averaging like 350, 320, 350. We dropped to about 280. And then all of a sudden it just skyrocketed back up to over the 400 numbers. So we will continue our telehealth until at least December 31st, 2021. Because again, we're funded by insurance. We take your insurance, which is what makes us different in the market. And all the insurance companies joined in with Florida in permitting that to go. We're keeping our ear to the ground to see what happens for January of 2022, to see if they do continue that. We don't see why they wouldn't. But in case they say, nope, we're back to one-on-one sessions, then we'll just regroup and begin that process. So that taught us some lessons there. We also took advantage of the fact that when Governor DeSantis started providing the vaccinations to our individuals, we jumped on board as quickly as we can. For those of us who met the initial criteria, mental health therapists were able to get their shots right away, much like most of the medical practitioners. Even though they're still working by virtual, they have been vaccinated and all of them have already had their second round. So if tomorrow the world changed and we had to bring them back, they are double vaccinated and good to go. And then at last count, we have 60% of our staff vaccinated and 40% are double vaccinated, completely done. So we hope to be completely vaccinated by the end of May, so that we are prepared to reopen the building to the public if that becomes a necessity. The pantry is vaccinated and is working still with our social distancing requirements. Nobody can come into the building. We bring your food out to you. And that number is continued to stay in the 90s. We'll see how things go. The next round of checks came out for assistance. We did notice an impact on the second round. People slowed down a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. We're reacting to chaos. And so that's presented us some great opportunities to be more hands-on. Even though it's all virtual, we are literally being more hands-on and having a one-on-one relationships. We're just doing it through a different medium. And surprisingly, our clients have all come in. They use their smartphones. And those that can't, yes, we still get phone calls from 86 and 93-year-old individuals who just tell us they just need help and they don't know how to do it. And at that point, we just work with, if they have a case manager, or get them a case manager from services in Orlando County, in Orange County, and Orlando City, and in Seminole County also, and provide the best services that we possibly can. And that includes dropping food off for them. When our staff's on the way home, they'll stop by the house and drop some food packets off. So my assurance to you is that nobody's going hungry. If they ask for food, they get it. If anybody needs family stabilization, because it's not so much mental health, it's just they're looking at their finances and need some guidance, we're working virtually. If they need a ride, because the rides have picked back up now a little bit, people are feeling more comfortable, vaccinated or not, getting to their Publixes or their doctor's offices, we're going. We're getting them rides to where they need to be and getting them home. The rabbi is very busy. Rabbi Arnie is doing weddings again, and some of them virtual, some of them with small groups. Unfortunately, he's still doing funerals. That will always be, and he's there as a guidance. Our rental assistance program continues. We're contributing up to, this round, up to 3 months of back rent. And so those funds continue to go out to landlords to help bring those people back up, closer to being within a month of back rent pay. And so we're really pretty pleased. So taking that success from last year and moving it into this year, we often talk about, particularly in the nonprofit world, we talk about, well, what's your strategy? What's the strategic plan? It's a great phrase, and one I really respect and love. And I'm here to tell you, just let you know, The strategy plans that we had in 2019 going into 2020, we just threw them out the window because the world changed around us. And so our strategy really is to be flexible, absolutely be flexible. We keep our business operations in a comprehensive manner. We stay attuned to what's happening with numbers, not only people we serve, but what it costs us to serve them. So we're certainly not being, winking, blinking on how we're managing our funds. But at the end of the day, a program that's important today may not be important tomorrow, because we really don't know what all is happening around us, primarily because of the pandemic. So we've kind of brought it into goals. What are our next 3 goals for the 2021 year? And that's a little bit easier to manage for our staff. So the first thing we want to do is maintenance. We want to maintain and strengthen the relationships that we were successful in building during the 2020 year. And that, of course, includes our donors, all of you. At the end of the day, as a nonprofit, we work because of the charity of others. And so that relationship we continue to manage and work on. Our relationship with the government, working with the government, for those of you who know, it was green yesterday, it's blue today, and it will be purple tomorrow. And there's really not much we can do about that. So everything is 90 to 120 days behind. Everything is hurry up and wait. Everything is sign this today because we need it by 4 o'clock. We've gotten pretty good over the last year on being able to just continue that relationship, say, thank you, sir, may I have another, be as humble as we can, vent to each other, and just continue to work with both Orange County, Seminole County, and with the city of Orlando to maintain a positive relationship. We're working more and more with other nonprofits. In our service area, a lot of nonprofits have closed their doors. They've retrenched into different operations. They've closed down some of their programs. And so they began to reach out to us, everything from religious organizations to just public organizations. The senior resource centers have reached out to us because of our RIDE program. The senior resource programs have reached out to us because of our therapy programs, because again, we take insurance. And so we're building those relationships stronger and stronger every day. And those of you who know me a little bit well know I have no hesitation on saying that I'll make it happen. We'll get it done. Now let's talk about how we finance that. And so we're constantly in a discussion about what's the best way for us both to be successful for those we serve, and at the same time, make sure that my light switch and my electric bills get paid and so forth and so on. And we're strengthening our relationship with the community. We've been doing a lot recently in our cyberspace world. We send out a tremendous amount of emails, 6,247, I think it is. Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Leave the house every Sunday. And that includes a newsletter item, that includes a teaching moment from Rabbi Arnie. And we send that to donors, non-donors alike. That continues to go out. That's had a very positive response. We are starting in April. There'll be a comprehensive publicity campaign. You'll be seeing it in the Heritage. You'll be hearing it on the radio. You'll be seeing it on billboards. You'll be seeing it in magazines. And it's about JFS providing a family of services to the Central Florida community. So that's all part of this first goal. Our second goal is to diversify our funding sources. I mean, we've seen the lessons from 2017, 18, 19, and going into 20. And so, of course, we continue to work with our donors. That's our prima facie as an organization. Government. We currently operate at about 70% government funding through grants and 30% through our general donations. Our goal is to begin to lower that number of government, not by its dollar value, but by its operational intake. That's a fancy term for less grants, more vendor relationship. That's a completely different business model. They've got a need. They're opening it up for, for-profits or not-for-profits to fill that need. They generally sign a 3-year contract, and they have a lot less red tape on what they're expecting. They're expecting the product. They're not giving me a grant, which then closes down our world for JFS, where we're providing only the city of Orlando or only Orange County or only unincorporated Orange County. The grants are generally wider in disbursement, where usually it's 70% from the governing agency's population, and you can allow 30% outside of it, but they want a service. And the best example I can give you is right now, just even as of yesterday, I got hit with 3 requests for proposals for looking to put up street lights that could withstand hurricane force winds to the tune of $18 million in a small service area. And also we got hit with if we could purchase and store disaster food. No, we're not qualified for that. But again, we get this information on a daily basis. I commit every Wednesday morning from 8:30 in the morning till noon to do nothing but just go through the mountain of emails that the government posts out to see what we are qualified for or would be willing to, as a vendor, bid for that process. The food caught my eye, but that's really a second harvest sort of operation, because you need a minimum of like 50,000 square feet to store for Central Florida. But it was nice to at least get the email. So that's the process we're going in government. So again, to shorten that down, we want to take that 70% of our funding from the government, maintain the 70% dollar value and grow it, but move out of that 70, move to at least 50% of that being in a vendor relationship and 50% being in grants. So that's our goal for the year. We also want to formalize our planned giving. We've been a member of TOP. We will continue to be a member of TOP in the formalized estate planning and plan giving program. But no one from the personnel in our organization has got neither the time nor the skill level to do that. It works out for our benefit, I guess, that I am a planned giving officer from the fundraising world. I know the difference between charitable remainder annuity trusts and lead trusts and unit trusts. But with everything else going on, I just don't have the time to really put my foot on that gas pedal and begin to push it. So we're making some changes internally, which will come up in a second, that should begin to provide me that opportunity to work with our existing donor base and future donor bases and talk about the programs that are offered through TOP to help us get testament giving back on track and get our remainder trust, unit trust, lead trust, donor advised funds moving into a significant operational impact. And all of this requires proper staffing. We've been running a little bit too lean over the last 5 years. That's just my observation, and it's my opinion. Somebody could certainly have a discussion with me about that, but we are hiring. We are hiring to help in the food pantry because I got one person trying to manage all these people and it's gotten just too much. So we're hiring an assistant. We are hiring an assistant bookkeeper because the government grants require the shoe size of your third born grandchild and proof that that shoe size is accurate. The paperwork has not gotten less. The paperwork has almost doubled. So in order for our expert to do that, she's got to let go of accounts payable, accounts receivable, some different things. So we need to hire a part-time bookkeeper just to keep the business of our operation going smoothly and not burn out my finance officer with the overwhelming government requirements. And we also need a full-time fundraiser. I love doing fundraising. I love the relationship it allows me to build and provide, but I'm overwhelmed and I can't keep my eye on the government, keep my eye on planned giving, and keep my eye on donations ranging from $1 to $50,000 and do it well. And we're not at a point anymore where we can't do things well. So we're in the process of making an offer for a full-time fund development officer to come and join this organization and actually be the first person in the line to be able to work the system, make it work for both the donor, for the community, and for us in a much more comprehensive fashion. So those are our two organizational primary goals. Our third goal, and this means a lot to us, is the Blue Card program. Now, for those of you on this meeting, if you're not familiar with the Blue Card, I'll give you as quickly as a synopsis as I can. It started in 1934 in Europe, particularly in Germany. It helped Jews who were being prosecuted in the very early stages of the Nazi regime to get what was called blue cards, the visas, and to get out of the country. It provided them financial support. It provided them passports. It helped relocate them from out of the countries, particularly Germany, where this was all beginning to happen. It still continues, and it's now become absorbed Holocaust survivors, of course. And the reason that we've really become involved in this is that back in 2020, right after COVID started, sometime in April, I got a phone call from Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the 11 blue card centers in the United States. And if you're not a blue card center today, you can't become a blue card center. These were approved back, I think, in 1950 or 60. They became centers. And so they have the opportunity for funding from the trust that was established by the German government soon after the war ended. And so they have the money, and they have been servicing Holocaust survivors in their specific area. There is a Blue Card Program Center in Miami, and that goes as far north geographically by their trust agreement into Broward County, and it stops there. The next one is Atlanta, and Atlanta goes as far down as the Florida border and kind of stops there. The reason they called me was because 15 of their current survivors, Holocaust survivors that they have been working with for years, have relocated to Orlando, Florida. And so they're unable to manage that group of individuals from a distance of being in Atlanta. So they reached out to me for help. And they're very kind and very helpful, very professional, so far as to tell me, but we can't give you any money because the money has rules and regulations that I can't fund you, even though you're doing the work for us. It's government, it just is what it is. But they have a need, and we have an opportunity to do this program for them. So again, I know I have my board members are on this call, and they know me well enough to say, yeah, no, let's figure out how to do this and let's just get it done. So I will be reaching out over the course of the next month to our donor base to look for some funding to be able to put this program together so that I can hire a full-time MSW case manager who has a specialty in elder care services and, quite frankly, has experience working with Holocaust survivors. So in the business world, it means I'm going to cherry pick. I'm going to pull somebody, I'm going to offer someone a job from New York City. I'm going to offer somebody a job from Atlanta. I'm going to offer someone a job from Texas, Chicago. I'll look into Miami. I need somebody who actually knows the program, just get them to relocate to beautiful Orlando and get better weather if you come from the north and less heat if you come from the south. And less craziness, because we all know Miami's crazy. So we're going to be building the program. We're putting the infrastructure in place now so that it will allow me to fund. There will be some program funding available from Atlanta. Atlanta specializes in eyeglassware. They take care of eye issues. That seems to be where the majority of their funding goes to for their Blue Card program. Including everything from Braille training to glaucoma testing and actually providing reading glasses. Miami does a lot of home health care. So I'm looking at these different programs so that we can figure what's the best need for these 15, possibly 17 identifiable Holocaust survivors who are already part of the Blue Card program or who we can bring into the Blue Card program. Let me say respectfully, this program will have a limited lifespan. Most of the survivors are in their 90s. They have high need, but that need will only live as long as the program will only live as long as until the last survivor is available to us to assist. So with people moving into Florida and Orlando, Atlanta's put the word out to the other Blue Card program centers to let them know we are attempting to do this, so that if someone from Chicago moves and we're comfortable, we'll get a call. Because again, Florida is a destination site, and we want to be able to maintain that these services are there. And that's important to us because we are Jewish Family Services, and this is the community we serve. I've been in touch with the Holocaust Museum. They've been very helpful in working with me to, what do I need to look for? What do I need to be asking? What questions? And have absolutely agreed to assist us in this effort. I've reached out, as I mentioned, to Miami, and we're working with Atlanta. And so this will continue to grow. I'll have a launch date basically once I've got all the finances buttoned up, because I'm not in a position to, pull from Peter to give to Paul. I've literally got to set this up as a separate program within our operation. And we'll be looking to our donor base and those who have an interest in this area to help get this funded. So that's our big third program, Go. As a sort of a wrap-up station, let me tell you that, we really look forward to this year because we've decided that we've experienced about as much chaos as anybody could possibly have for a small organization under 1.5 million. We have not only survived, but we've thrived. And so the lessons we've learned primarily are the three big lessons: flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. And so we're going into the 2021 year looking to continue to engage and service the Central Florida community, and to continue to be flexible and know if it's blue paper tomorrow, it may be green paper tomorrow, the next day, and after that, it may be yellow. But we will meet the needs as best we possibly can. So that's pretty much my formal presentation of how we did 2020 and what we're looking to do for 2021. And at this point, I absolutely would welcome any and all questions, comments from all you all. So I turn this now over to you.
All I can say is well done, Philip.
Well, thank you, Dick. I appreciate that.
We sure can be proud of what you've done, and we're proud of the agency that we all work so hard to maintain. So again, pat on the back. Thank you.
The staff is really, I didn't say it, but you should know, the staff was scared. I mean, in March, we're a young staff. I mean, we run an age from 26, I think 25, 26 to 63. And the staff was scared because no one had answers to what was doing and what's the best way to get it done and stay safe. But they rose to the occasion, they dealt with the chaos, and they just moved forward. So I'm very proud of them and grateful for their commitment.
I have a question.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Phil. I know you were talking about JFS's community relations. What relationship do you have with the Jewish Federation, if any?
I have a strong relationship, both on a personal. Keith is a friend. He's become a friend over the last year and a half that I've been with the organization. We are also, from a business perspective, we take some of our insurances, our liability insurance, our property insurance is all under the umbrella of JFS, under of the Federation. And we have a cooperation with our security details. And so it's the business end of running JFS is tied right with the Federation. And we have shared some funding sources from some donors. And also, Keith will pick up the phone and say, oh, you need to call so-and-so because he was talking about exactly what you're doing. And I just don't think he's aware that you're doing it. And the same for me. When people say, do you run the JCC? No, that's not my operation, but give me your name and number. Let me call Keith and I'll have him call y'all. So we, from my perspective, unless Keith's got a different one, organizationally and personally, we have a very strong relationship with the Federation.
Phil?
The other thing I want to comment about, I think that I think I get them weekly, your notices, the emails
Yes.
you get. I think
Yes, ma'am.
it's a very effective marketing tool. And I'm curious, how many times do people actually give $50?
Oh, actually, okay, let's talk science for a minute. We send out 6,000. I'm averaging about 40. Let me rephrase that. We average a little over 2% open. They actually open it and read it. Money is called a conversion, how many convert. And I get on average about, Sarah, what do we do? About 40 gifts come through the door, with the average size gift being a little higher than $50. So we do get some 25 and 5s, and that's fine. But we also get some $80 and $100 gifts. And we've only been doing it for a year and a half. Honestly, I got to look at it after 36 months and tell you, has this been successful from a fundraising perspective? But I do agree with you, Barbara. It has been successful and impactful from a public awareness. So some months I get a lot of money. Some months not so much. But it's enough to keep us interested and keep us doing.
Bill?
Yes, Matt. Yes, sir.
First of all, terrific presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I thought I saw something just come in from the Federation that showed that they made a a donation to JFS of over $40,000. Is that correct?
That's accurate.
Okay, well, that was good to see that some funds are coming in. And
Yes.
I think it's been some time since we've seen that. If you looked at our total budget, actually, how much have we raised in personal donations, I guess, as opposed to the governmental funding? Dollar-wise, how much are we raising?
We're raising about $630,000 a year, give or take.
All right, now part of that's fee-based, but I'm looking for donations.
No, that's donation. That's not program funding. That's my donations. Some of that, or let me rephrase that. A large portion of that comes out of our accounts in TOP. Those were set up donor advised funds that come to us in the beginning of the year, 10,000 here, 20,000 there, and thumbs up. The initial annual fund is about 15 to 20,000 in the course of a year. Our restock and restore, the challenge grants that come out both from the Wiener family, average about another 18,000 cash. We do generally, up until last year, about 25,000 in event. We didn't have an event last year, so we're looking at how we can do that this year. So I guess the summary would be is we're doing about, in what we would call unrestricted income, a little over 100,000, maybe $120,000 a year in unrestricted income versus the other funds that come in, not government related, that are restricted to our programs, Perlman Food Pantry, Counseling Center, so forth and so on.
Well, and now when did you start there?
July. My first day of work was July 22nd, 2019.
All right. I mean, so the huge deficits were really 17 and 18. 19,
yes, sir.
We already started to see moving in the right direction. But the 240,000 surplus, I won't call it a profit, but temporary surplus right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree.
Without having specialized grants, and I don't know how much of this is based on COVID funding, looking at hiring new people and all,
right.
Are we putting ourselves at jeopardy with building up too large a expense base? Or do you see this continuing for some time? The government funding?
The government funding, I believe, is going to continue for at least through 2021. We'll see how 2022 begins to look. Dick, I'm not spending a dime. I've got to invest. If I don't do it now, I'll never get it done. And yes, it will be white knuckle. I'm the first to admit it's going to get white knuckle as it gets close to certain portions of the year. But if I don't do it now, I'll never get it done, period. I cannot lead the organization by expense cutting and expect us to grow. I can expect us to maybe maintain, but then that just becomes a gerbil cage where we're just running around in that circle. I've got to invest in the organization staffing to be able to grow the organization and be less reliant on the current avenues of funding the way we are reliant on the current avenues of funding. There is a risk factor involved, absolutely. But I keep my eye on the cash flow. I keep my eye on the monthly totals. I also I'm very grateful with my board. I've got some really good financial acumen on the board of directors that works with me to keep an eye on things. We did a significant change this past week with our counseling center because the labor costs were just eating us alive based on the reimbursement ratios. So we just initiated that change. We'll compress probably for about 30 to 45 days, but we should be able to expand back out, which will put us back at a much higher profit margin or surplus margin by December of 2021.
I thought the counseling was almost a profit center. Is that not true?
No, it's not true. It has been losing. It's been losing money because the costs to provide services continue to go up, and the insurance reimbursements have gone down. With COVID, they started to go back up, but quite frankly, we inherited 1099 employees working at a contract level that were just too high. It was just too high. So it was more cost effective for us to actually bring them on full time to the organization, which lowered my upfront labor costs and increased the margins that we were getting from the insurance companies. It's the exact reason why 99% of private mental health therapists don't accept insurance. You pay out of pocket and then you get your reimbursement from the insurance company. We bill out $120 to $160 and get back on average $75 to $80. And then my labor costs come out and then my IDC comes out. So the margins are just not a good way to go. So we've kind of flipped it, not to belabor this, but we flipped it, which brings all our fixed costs down to something that's reasonable. So we should see that margin line increase by about 22%. So if we get back up to, I think our break-even point is 398 or 400 session hours. And then above that is where we should close. We're projecting 79 to 80,000 in the plus from counseling as opposed to too much red. I didn't mean to belabor that.
It's interesting. I just had the wrong impression from the way I thought I heard other responses about counseling before. So that means you've got to get it up to a certain size before it has potential of becoming profitable.
Well, we've always been led to believe that would be a profit center going back years ago, and I pitched it strong to keep building it because I was told it would become a profit center, and obviously that's not the case. I agree with you, Dick.
I'm not saying whoever presented that was wrong, but the numbers are unmanageable. We need, under the new business model, we need approximately 410 to be comfortable and have what you would call a profit. Using the other business model, I think the number was close to 690, 700. And this organization can't support that. We just can't. And that's not anybody's fault. That's just the way the insurance companies have worked over the last 5 to 7 years. They flattened out and dribs and drabs going up. I'm sure those of you in the medical profession, when you talk to your billers and your finance officers, it's the same thing. How many people can you fit into a box with only so much labor force versus what the costs are becoming versus what the reimbursement levels are? It's true on medicine all over. We ain't giving up on it, Dick. We really hope that our plan works. We believe it will. We've worked the numbers more ways than Sunday. And so we've just initiated that cause, and we should have a clearer picture of where we stand by the end of June, going into July, and we'll make the adjustments at that point.
I do have a concern, Phil, about the blue card situation. That sounds like
Sure.
It could be expense way above income.
Oh, there's no income from it. There's no
That's what I
income for me, right? Yeah, no. I listen. I'm the first to tell you, this is well, in my terminology, this is a timing issue program. It has a start date. It has an end date. It's just going to be. And I cannot fund this out of operations. I can't. I can write some grants for it. I can, ask for some, foundation help. But at the end of the day, this is going to be, quite frankly, it's an expensive program that I need comfort level for 5 years worth of funding. But I'll ask the question. It's what we do. It's what we should be doing. And this is a population that has to be served, period. So my job is to figure out how to get it done, So I scare you sometimes when I talk about the numbers. We're talking 150 a year, at least 150,000 a year, because I don't know what I'm going to need, and neither can anybody else tell me.
How many people do you think it's serving, did you say?
I have the opportunity to serve 17 people.
So 17 people, and what type of support are you looking at from the Holocaust Center, or are you?
That's what we're talking about now. What we're talking about is, I think I can get the program funding for the eyeglassware from Atlanta, but we're talking about $5,000 is my guess. But what these individuals need is someone home to come and visit with them. It's got to be a home aide to come and visit them. The reason they came to Florida was so they could either be close or move in with family. So we're not talking about 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We're talking about someone to get into, because they're not moving in with their children, they're moving in with their grandchildren. So these are working adults. So we just need someone to get in there to be cognizant and measure how they're doing, keep abreast of what services are going on. It's a case management job. And to do that, we've got to work some relationships out with home health agencies. So I'm budgeting high. I'm just budgeting high. And so I've kind of worked it out to, if I had 150,000 a year for at least 5 years, I'd be able to handle the salary, be able to handle contract, and be able to handle any need that may go. I may have funding left over at the end of each year. I'll roll it into the second year, or I may suddenly discover my number was way off. But when I have talked to the other blue card programs, they lovingly tell me, I'm out of my mind because I have no funding source coming from the trust in and of itself. They understand the pickle we're all in because nobody thought about moving people as one or two maybe, but now we're talking 15, 16 just in a year because, it's Florida. So yeah, I mean, it's I'm looking at it from a business perspective and I'm looking at it from my mission.
When you say it's Florida, excuse me, let me just finish up with this. What's our service area? Are you talking about just people in Central Florida? In Central Florida, how many counties are we talking? 2 or 3 counties? Are we talking from the coast to the bay? I mean,
right now I would not increase our service area from what we have. We've been advised, which is Seminole County, Orange County, and we tap into a little bit of lake. Okay. That's about as far. We do have some mental health clients that go all the way out to Volusia, up by Daytona Beach. But the call to me, without identifying any of the Holocaust survivors, came from Atlanta saying they moved to Orange County and to the city of Orlando. So they're in our immediate 10-mile radius service area.
So I have a question about the services to be provided to these individuals that are part of this Blue Card program. It would seem that many of the services are applicable to non-Holocaust survivors as well. And
yes,
are the services that they need, because there must be an inventory of the services that the other Blue Card programs require or that they're distributing. What is the overlap with, this is a 2-part question. What is the overlap with the services that you already provide?
Yes.
And does that inventory apply to a population that is non-Holocaust survivor?
Yes. The answer is yes. No one who comes to our door, as you all know, goes away without food. So getting the opportunity to provide food is certainly within our realm. Mental health counseling is certainly within our current program well, so we can mose those over. Family stabilization program, interestingly enough, doesn't help the Holocaust survivor personally, but it helps their family who they're either moving in with or moving close to, because that's our skill set. So we have that. What we're looking to do is increase our provision of services, not that we're hiring home health aides, but that we're contracting with existing organizations, whether they be for-profit or non-for-profit. What makes this different is the fact that they are Holocaust survivors. And only that's an expertise skill that you have to have. And so the person that we want to hire is case manager certified, MSW certified,
For all of the other
for all of the
layers.
other things, have all the layers, so that if 3 days a week they're working with Holocaust survivors, they can just use those skills for 2 days a week with those that aren't. But I can't do it in reverse. Like I won't hire someone who's got all this great skill set, but has no understanding
Sure,
of what's required to work with this specific population. And
sure.
so I call me crazy, but I'm willing to pay for that. I want somebody who's going to do it right the first time, because this has a lifespan. This only has, I don't have time to build it. I only have time to make it work. Does that make sense? Just do it right the first time, and it's the cheapest in money I'll ever invest ever. So this program, when it begins to time itself out, allows us to take on the case management, which seems to be very much lacking in Central Florida. Case managers are difficult to find in any of our nonprofits. Senior Resource Center, even Nancy Luden's operation, it's small, and we're not having the impact that we'd like to have. And if I'm going to build that program, it seems to me I should build it with an expertise in place, so that we've got somebody who's learning for the Blue Card program how to tap into all these other county and city and other nonprofit operations, specifically for our Blue Card towns, but begin to then, as that program is winding down, its population is getting smaller, open it up in a passion that could open to those we serve. 90%, 92% of our population that JFS serves are not Jewish. They're the underserved, and that's who we serve. So this program will be 100% dedicated to Jewish population, and as that population gets smaller, begin to spread its wings in the other direction. The skill sets are the same, but the heart and the understanding has to be in that one faction.
I have another question in another area. You've had great success, and I know that you've just reinitiated another contract with HUD for the rent assistance program.
Yep.
Which is awesome. Has that program and the impact of the program on who walks in your door for other services brought people to the table for the other services to be able to ramp those up, or to give you a scope of where you're going?
Sure.
So maybe talk a little bit about the rent assistance program.
Sure. The rent assistance program started out, we were given the total was 603,000. 103,000 came to JFS. Of the 103,000, 47 was dedicated for salary, and the remaining funds, whatever, I'm sorry, I'm being off here, but $18,000 to $20,000 or 54,000, excuse me, was for just indirect costs. So, but 500,000, the biggest block of that funding, was to pay landlords for your back rent. And we were boxed in by HUD that it had to meet certain financial criteria, it had to meet COVID related, it had to meet household sizes, all this matrices. And so we put it together pretty quickly, surprisingly. And we got outside help. Trust me, when we were doing this, we were watching the state's unemployment system crash websites, and Orange County's website crashed. So we reached out to SurveyMonkey. Y'all are familiar with SurveyMonkey? Because they can handle 2 million hits on a computer per minute. And I know they're like Rolls Royce expensive, but they did the job for us for $7,000. Please don't quote me on that going out the door. But they did the job for us for $7,000. and they made it mobile so that it worked on your phone. And they built the system for us, and they tied in County of Orange's property records and City of Orlando property records, and made it so user-friendly. So that program provided direct rental assistance for up to, at the time, 2 months of back rent, and we had the ability in writing that we could extend to 3 months, but we had to be careful about how many times we did that. It started only with Orange County first, and then 1 month into the program, the City of Orlando ran out of money, and we still had some money left. So Orange County asked us to take on to include the City of Orlando. And that's only important to my infrastructure because I had to reach back to SurveyMonkey, and they had to redevelop the whole property system, and they still don't worry about it. We're gonna do this for you free of charge. They were great partner. They were just, I mean, you could see my face. They really humped for us. SurveyMonkey is 6 months to get a survey together at that level, and they did it for us in less than 4 weeks. They were operational. They were great. They really came to. So we were very happy about that. So that program put out, we finished the last disbursement in January. The only hookup with that program is I haven't received a reimbursement check since July. So I've been on the phone, at those who have been part of this conversation. I finally got a phone call yesterday from the controller's office, who I didn't know was an elected official, which is interesting, and told me point blank that they want to see all our reimbursement checks on their desk by the end of this week. Not 1 month, not 2 months, but all 4 months in, because we're 7 months behind in getting reimbursed. So I knew this going in, which is sort of why I just didn't expect it to be 7 months. I thought it would be 3 months, maybe 4 months, because we've been working with Orange County for years with HUD and so forth. But for whatever reason, this grant process seemed to take them a little bit of trouble to get done. So anyway, we should have the money cashed back into my accounts as quickly as possible, which will just then pop right back out for the second round. And now we're in negotiation with them for the third round, which is a big dollar value. We're seeing what they're doing. They haven't made decisions yet. So we're working this process as we can. We really like the system. Our clients like the system. It has carried over. We've seen an uptake in food. Perlman's Food Pantry saw an uptake. Because we always ask people, how'd you hear about us? Oh, well, when I applied for the rental assistance, your site came up about food. So I just clicked the button. Great, thank you. That's the way it's supposed to work. And also, when the state's unemployment system crashed, that's the best way I can say it, people who had come to us for rental assistance saw we offered family stabilization. They didn't know what it meant, which is fine, because they contacted us anyway. And so our two case managers suddenly became, I don't want to use the word experts, but pretty well adept on how to operate the system and what this question 37 means when it asks what my asset management is and how many properties do I own internationally and why are you asking me that? Walk them through the system and actually take them through the thing as long as it was running. And so that's where we saw a 15% increase. But that all started because they started with the rental assistance program. We got them into food and then got them into FSP.
Good.
I can't ask that question with mental health. HIPAA compliance won't let me ask that question. So, but I'd make a guess and say that some of our stress-related calls probably came from there. If that answers your question. It's 1 o'clock. I don't want to belabor this.
Say good night. Goodbye, everybody.
I just want to let you know, if you have more questions, please just call me. You all have my number and contact me. I'll be glad to, I'll talk for hours, have a conversation about any and all. I want you to know as a closing statement that we don't exist without your assistance. And I am so eternally grateful that you continue to support us, advise us, and share your opinions with me. Otherwise, we couldn't do what we do. Thank you all. And
Make us
have a very
proud,
happy
Phil.
Passover.
Make us proud.
Thank you, Dick. Appreciate that. You all be well.
Everybody be well. Thank you.
Thank you.